Having emunah is not something that's just nice to have. It's you must do everything in your power to build this emunah. Because Hashem is very, very harsh in some cases in the Torah due to a lack of emunah. Not because the emunah itself, the lack of emunah itself is a sin, not having emunah, but the outcome of not having emunah leads to sin. So here he's saying, you didn't believe in me because you didn't believe in me enough, not because Moshe Rabbeinu didn't believe. But the Ramban is explaining, it's not that Moshe and Aaron didn't believe. Obviously Moshe and Aaron believed in Hashem. Why, you're questioning Moshe and Aaron? No. It says, because you didn't lead the nation to believe in me, because you hit the rock instead of speaking to the rock. If you would have spoken to the rock and what would have come out, then everybody would have said, wow, this has to be a miracle from Hashem. He's the only one that can make something that doesn't hear, doesn't feel, doesn't see, doesn't speak. He can make it into water. He can make it into anything in the middle of the desert. He's the only one that creates something from nothing. But if because you hit it, it looks natural. Why does it look natural? Because it already happened before. 40 years ago, you hit the rock.
Yes, it worked.
And it worked last time. So they're thinking, yeah, so he just knows the rocks. It's Moses' wisdom. It's not Hashem's wisdom. So Moses just knows which rock to hit. We just don't know which rock to hit. You're going to make it, they could use it as something natural. When people look at rain today, they don't think, wow, what a miracle. No one thinks, wow, what a miracle.
No.
Not one person in the world, I think, looks at rain and says, wow, what a miracle. But in reality, every time it rains, it's millions of miracles. Millions of miracles. Not one, not two, millions and millions, an infinite amount of miracles. To give you just a small understanding, first and foremost, the simple way. Do you know that when it rains all the way from 30, 40,000 feet above us, sometimes a little lower, but nonetheless it's very, very high, and water comes down, and it drops, and it's soft, little drop hits our hand. Rain doesn't hurt. At least not normal rain. It doesn't hurt. Drops all the, but if you drop a penny from 30,000 feet on someone, it's going through his body. It's going to cut him. But when it arrives all the way from 30,000 feet, very, very soft water. That's one. Two, if you take millions and millions of pennies, millions of them, and you drop them from a plane, and you follow them with a very high-tech camera, most likely what you're going to see is a bunch of the pennies, at some point they're going to run into each other. Because the wind is going to carry them this way, carry them that way, they're all going to move in different directions, which means they're going to collide. So if it could possibly happen that more than one penny drops in a similar spot. But when it rains, no two drops ever touch each other. Not all the way from there, all the way to the ground, they never touch each other. Why is this a big deal? Why is it such a miracle? Because there's obviously a lot more raindrops than there is pennies. Now, if two drops touched each other, they connect, it's water. Now, if two connected, that means that three can connect, and four can connect, and before you know it, by the time it goes down 30,000 feet, it's a puddle. Now, if a puddle fell on an average person, he'd instantly die. Which means that every single time it would rain, especially as much as it rains where I live in Boca Raton, it rains almost every single day. When I first moved here 2 years ago, and it was raining literally every day for 2 weeks, I thought Hashem brought the flood. I started telling my wife, I'm like, oh wow, I guess Mashiach is coming sooner than I thought. It literally rains every day in certain parts of the year. But if it rained every day, or even rained once a week, and the drops connected, somebody would have to die every single time. At least 1 or 2 people would die. This is a miracle. The third thing is that rain is completely pure. It's not like anything else. And last but not least, one thing we mentioned in the Torah and Science lecture we did in Aventura is that most of the rain that actually feeds the world, the one that nourishes our plants and our trees, the one that we really live off of, is not like what scientists used to think. Scientists used to think that most of the water most of the drinking water we have, most of the water that feeds the plants, the trees, and everything else comes from the ocean. Because 72% of the globe of Earth is ocean, is water. So they figured that it all goes through evaporation. It gets purified, the salt stays here, the water goes up, it comes down, nourishes the planet. Logical. Now, even though that process is true, it does happen, but that's not where the main water of the world comes from. The main water that's in this world, that comes to this world, that nourishes the world, that nourishes our life, comes from outer space. From comets. Comets are giant rocks that are made of ice, that the closer and closer they get to the Earth, they melt, they go through our atmosphere. By the time they go through our atmosphere, they completely become vaporized or water, and that's what actually nourishes our planet. Again, this is actually written in ParaShat Bereshit, in the beginning of the Torah, where it says that Hashem divided or separated the heaven above the water from the heaven below the water. All of this is written in the Torah. See? Vayomer Elohim, this is chapter 1, verse 6. ויאמר אלוהים יהי רקיע בתוך המים ויהי מבדיל בין מים למים ויעש אלוהים את הרקיע ויבדל בין המים אשר מתחת לרקיע ובין המים אשר מעל לרקיע ויהי כן ויקרא אלוהים לרקיע שמיים ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום שני. This is the second day. God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters and let it separate between water and water. So obviously there's two sets of water. There's water below, there's water above. So God made the firmament, meaning the sky, and separated between the water which were beneath the firmament and the water which were above the firmament. And it was so. And he called the firmament heaven. And there was evening and there was morning, a second day. This is, in my opinion, the best possible proof that the Torah has to be divine. Because only in recent generation, not even generations, the recent generation now, did we discover that there's any water from outer space. And not only that there's water from outer space, but the sages explain in the Gemara on this specific verse, they say that not only did Hashem separate the water from here to outer space, but the water from outer space is really the real water that nourishes the planet. And for many, many centuries, the Goyim would make fun of us. They're like, where is this water? I don't see any water. We don't see any water. Where is this water? Where is this illusion you have here? You have a mistake in your Torah. Took them thousands of years to finally catch up to the 6th verse in the Torah that only a divine being could have written. No human could have written that, because no human was able to see outer space until 400 years ago, when Galileo Galilei came out with the telescope. And even then it wasn't exactly a high-end telescope in comparison to a toy today. So here you have Hashem being very upset that what ended up happening looks natural. It doesn't look like a miracle because it happened before. Because rain happened, it happened before. We don't think it's a miracle. If somebody goes into a coma, as Rav Mizrahi says, someone goes into a coma for 50 years. Now before he went into a coma, all he saw was regular rain. Now during those 50 years, something happened, and rain all of a sudden became blue. Blue. Now in the beginning, the first day, blue rain comes down. Everybody's scared. No one wants to go outside. After a week or two, it rains blue. 1, 2 people go outside. After a month, more people. After a year, it rains blue. It becomes normal. Now the guy that comes out of a coma after 50 years, he sees that everybody's walking around in blue rain, no problem. He thinks this is a miracle. No one's acknowledging it. They don't think it's a miracle because they're used to it. So Hashem says, because Am Yisrael saw you hit the rock 40 years ago, they're going to think it's a mikre. They're going to think it's just natural.
But that's human being.
Right, but that's exactly what Hashem said. I want you to speak to the rock. Bring the staff to show them that you can hit the rock, but you're not going to hit the rock. You're going to make them think, oh, he's going to hit the rock. This is the same thing that happened 40 years ago that our parents told us. No. Here you're going to show them, I'm going to speak to the rock, and because of the will of Hashem, water is going to come out. And that's not natural. That's superhuman. That's super ability. That's miracle. Only Hashem can do something like that. And that, by showing them a miracle, that will sanctify my name.